Penny Mordaunt, why do we need the statue, and do you worry it's whitewashing history?
It's not at all. It's really important that we tell the whole story about our history, and I'm very grateful to Colin and his team for standing up this initiative. The West Africa Squadron, it's been described as the most expensive moral action ever undertaken, and it helped bring about the end of the transatlantic slave trade. About 1,500 men lost their lives doing it, and that is a major part of our history, and we should be talking about their legacy.
And Colin Kemp, you're raising the money for this statue. Why do you think the work of the West African Squadron has been forgotten?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I'm a keen historian, and I came across the West African Squadron by accident. And I hadn't heard of it before, so I did some investigation. And it's, as Penny said, it's something that should be told. Because the memorial should do two things. One, it should remind people of the sailors who lost their lives. And secondly, it should remind people that Britain was the first country to ban slavery. We did it with our own men, our own money and our own ships, and we should be proud of that.
And Penny Mordaunt, should the UK be proud of its role in ending slavery? But do you worry that ignores the long period before that when we were an active participant in the slave trade?
Well, I think as a nation, we tend not to like show-offs. We're quite modest about our achievements. We're the first people to sort of do ourselves down. And I think that needs to change, particularly with certain parts of our history. This is important, as Colin says, to commemorate that legacy and commemorate those that lost their lives. But it also should be inspirational to new generations. It shows that despite the odds, despite the cost, you can change the course of history. You can do something which is world-changing. And I think that for that reason as well, it's important that we do this.
And Colin Kemp, how much money have you raised?
Our target is 70,000. We're currently at 42,000. Lord Ashcroft made a very good donation, a sizable donation, but we have 600 supporters who've pledged between £5 and £1,000. And the comments on the website, which is westafricasquadron.org, are incredibly positive towards what we're trying to do.
Recently, Penny Mordaunt, there's been some complaints about the language in rural Britannia that's sung at the last night of the proms. Do you support erasing that from the national psyche?
Look, I, as someone that campaigned for us to retain the UK theme that was slashed by the BBC, these things I think are important to our history, and I think that we should be celebrating our heritage. That's what these things are about. People don't sing them to be offensive. We very tactfully drop verses out of certain tunes on various occasions. Let's be pragmatic about this. But I think the public do want to celebrate our cultural history.
You're a Royal Naval Reservist. Are you willing to sign up to fight for your country?
I have signed up to do this in the past. I have to say, Chris, if they're calling on me at any point, we are really in trouble. But look, in all seriousness, we need to be a resilient nation, and that doesn't mean stepping up to pick up a rifle. What it means is that on anything that might happen to us in the future, we want our communities to be able to respond to that. When I rewrote this nation's resilience strategy, standing up a civil defence force to be able to deal with some of the things that we currently ask our armed forces to do was part of that suggestion. And we can take pressure off our armed forces by becoming more resilient ourselves. And that is something important that we should do. You have been in this office before covering my campaign to build 3 new ships, assets, civilian assets, but for the government to have call on if they need to. That could take pressure off our fleet, our Navy. So these are the sorts of things we should be looking at doing.
So are you saying we should be ready for a call-up by the government of a civilian force to defend Britain?
No, I don't think that is on the cards. But we already do a huge amount in our communities to help us as a nation be more resilient. And we need to think about things, you know, if people were going to take out our communications network, for example, how would we respond to that? These are things that the Cabinet Office thinks about all the time. And I would love us to be the most resilient nation on earth. When I rewrote our resilience strategy, that was at the heart of it.
And just finally, Penny Mordaunt, last week you gave an impassioned defence of Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, your leader. Why do you need to do that? And why do some of your colleagues on your side of the House want to remove him?
Well, look, I think that the Labour line of attack against the Prime Minister is pretty disgraceful, actually. So I simply told the Commons who he is as a person. And I think that the list of things that he is involved in, the things that he has done in his life, tell a great story about the Great Britain that he is. And I was very keen to knock that Labour line of attack on the head. It's deeply unpleasant.
It's a Tory attack too.
There's policy disagreements, but there's policy disagreements all the time. I think that the Labour Party attacking the man, not the ball, is very unpleasant. And I think we need to stop that sort of behaviour.